As I live and breathe, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the show. Whole bunch of stuff coming at you this week. We have had week one of fantasy football. We have had week one of regular football. Some crazy stuff happened. I'm going to break it all down for you. My co-host, Mr. JRush, having a couple technical difficulties, but have no fear, ladies and gentlemen. He will be back and he will be here. But what a week for week one of football. My goodness. If you would have told me that the Giants were going to win against the Tennessee Titans, I would have told you you're crazy. If you were to tell me that Geno Smith was going to lead the Seahawks into victory, Pete Carroll even said in the locker room that nobody expected them to win because nobody did. It was an absolutely insane week in football, and we're going to break it all down for you. We're going to talk to you about next week, or this week, I should say, with the game tonight being Kansas City versus the Chargers, I believe. So that's going to be a great conversation there. It's just full of stuff to talk about. So let's just jump into it. I mean, we're going to start right off the bat with let's look at what is going down with. Oh, give me 1 second. There we go. So let's talk about what is going on with last week. First of all, Thursday Night Football, of course, our debut show. If you haven't yet, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, be a part of the show, be a part of the VOD over on Twitch, on Facebook, our fan page, here on YouTube, anywhere you want to be, wherever you're talking to us. We love you all. But we were talking to you about Thursday's game and how big it was going to be with the Bills versus the Rams. And let me tell you, man, the Bills came out and they made a statement. So much so they won 31-10. I mean, they walked in to Rams Stadium and said, nope, we're going to show you why we should have been the Super Bowl champions. Because, by God, we talked about last week, of course, me and JRush, that controversial, the coin flip. Who's better, Mahomes, Josh Allen? It's a flip of a coin come fantasy. It's a flip of a coin in actual football when they're on the field. But if you know that Josh Allen had that opportunity, he would have delivered. And it shows that the Bills are here and you will not forget about them. Moving on, we're going to talk to you Eagles, Lions. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. The Lions, good gracious me. I thought the Lions were going to do it. Me and Jay were talking. They were the underdog. But the Eagles crawling and scratching and clawing like the Eagles do to end up winning. And I mean, if the Lions won, good for them. Because we all know that in the NFC North, some more crazy stuff happened. We're going to get right into that. Let's talk about the Bears and the 49ers. Speaking of the NFC North, the Bears upsetting the 49ers. The 49ers are talking about they're a playoff team. How are they a playoff team with how they played week one? You got to think that Jimmy G be getting that call soon if they can't figure out what's going over there. You got Debo, but I mean, you need other people, man. You need other people. You got the Steelers and the Bengals. This was a heartbreaker. 4 interceptions for Joe Burrow. I mean, the Bengals did not look like Super Bowl contenders of last year. They looked like a mess. And the Steelers, being that everybody was going to write them off because Big Ben is out. But let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. The Steelers are saying, no, we are here to play. And let me tell you something, Cincinnati Bengals, you got to bring it this week. I mean, because fantasy owners, at the end of the day, we can talk about the Joe Burrow. Yeah, he threw some picks. Yeah, he looked like trash. But you still got 22 points in fantasy. But we expect huge things. You have Chase. You have Mixon. You have these weapons. You have Tyler Boyd who can have those big receptions. So what's going on, Cincinnati? Show me that this was just a fluke. Show me this was the Jags and Bills of last year when the Jags won 9-6 against the Buffalo Bills. You guys all remember that because nobody saw that shit coming. Dolphins and Patriots. Tua, 4-0 against Bill Belichick. Can we talk about that? I mean, you got Tyreek Hill. You got great weapons here in Miami. And Miami is stepping up and showing that we should be very much considered next to the Bills as the team in the AFC East. And playing how the Patriots did, I don't know. We now know that Jones is healthy. He should be playing on Sunday. So there's that for fantasy owner. If God forbid you're playing Jones, which my heart goes out to you, ladies and gentlemen. But my goodness, man. We got the Browns and the Panthers. Pats are overrated. I completely agree, Greg. I mean, Belichick is arguably one of the best coaches, but the argument now presents itself that was it Tom Brady that made the Patriots or was it Bill Belichick? And as we've been seeing lately, you got to be looking at Thomas Brady over there. But Browns versus the Panthers. Now, of course, you know me, Saints fan, greatest team on earth. Happy that Carolina lost. Upset. Half Christian McCaffrey didn't produce as much as I was hoping week one. You know, he was the second rated overall running back in leagues and just not delivering because Baker Mayfield passed to the Browns. However, he's a Carolina Panther now, so he wanted to pass to his old team. So why couldn't you do that last year? So Baker not looking very strong out of the Carolina offense, you know, and the Browns, just bringing it to them. I mean, I think the Browns might be a team to watch, and it's going to be quite interesting what happens this week 2. Now let's move on to goddamn my goodness, just an atrocious game with the Colts and the Texans. I mean, Matt Ryan, good old Falcon ex quarterback, couldn't get the job done. What happened with these kickers? None of the kickers were there that game. And to go week 1 and get a tie when you had multiple opportunities. You have Jonathan Taylor, the best running back. Have him run. What are you guys doing over there? It was absolutely a travesty to watch unfold. But when you talk about travesty, you got to talk about the Atlanta Falcons right now, because the Atlanta Falcons in the fourth quarter were up against the Saints. And you all know me. I'm the biggest fucking Jameis Winston fan. No. But let me tell you, he absolutely showed up because of one man, and that man is the resurgence of Michael Thomas. Because Michael Thomas got about 50 yards, 2 touchdowns. Michael Thomas is showing that, yeah, I was out last year. Yeah, I was out most of the year before. But I am here to show why I'm a big-time player. And my goodness, if Jameis Winston and Michael Thomas can have that connection throughout the season, I feel very strongly about the Saints making that playoff push. And I mean, the argument was being said earlier in the game, Michael Thomas was dropping passes. He was. You know, he was rusty. He really didn't practice with the team all week. But once you get that little rust off, you get that little oil on those legs and you're squeaking by, and then you shoot down, and then towards the fourth, him and Jameis Winston showing that the Saints are somebody to play with, and it shows that Atlanta has no idea what's going on. Because you look at the tight end, big tight end, Pitts, going to make a big scene, got under 4 points. The only touchdown that this man has gotten has been in London. And funny enough, that all of his receiving yards were getting by Drake London over in Atlanta. So, Mariota, you're a fantastic quarterback. I'm very excited to see you play more. But what's going to happen over in Atlanta, especially when you guys repeatedly, every time, give up commanding leads of 10 plus points in the fourth, third quarter? It doesn't matter. You guys give up points, and it's absolutely a travesty to watch. But talking about travesty, you can't. Well, you know what? Let's go back a little bit. I forget. Forget Carolina Saints champions this year. Yep, absolutely. Texans better than you think. I agree, but you can't say to me, Greg, you can't say that the kicking was on those teams last week, because it wasn't. It was an atrocious, and how, I mean, there was 4 multiple chances. None of it did anything. Okay. Like I said before, what Winston did in the fourth quarter, but you have to know that Michael Thomas was definitely a part of that. And it shows that he wants to be that one receiver, and he can be because he's back. He still led the league in receptions. I think it was like 155 or something a couple years back. He's still dominating. I think if Winston and Michael Thomas can get on the same path, there's no ending for the Saints coming up. But what could be ending, and it already started week one, is the end of the Jets season. Because good God Almighty, what a terrible team. I mean, you have good old Lamar Jackson coming back, making some nice plays. You know, you got that tight end, Mark Andrews, Dynasty League, love him to death, gets you the points, but you're facing the Jets, not a big trial. So it's going to be very curious to see how the Ravens go about this week and seeing if they can continue that domination. Talking about more of the NFC East, you got the Commanders beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. But let me tell you something. Fantasy owners, be happy because James Robinson might be on the uphill battle of being the running back to have a sleeping running back. I mean, not a lot of people thought that James Robinson was going to have the game he did, but he was very much in that game and gave the Commanders a very, very big upset. I mean, the Commanders definitely did not upset. They just dominated, and good on them. I'm very curious to see now what happens in the NFC East because, as we know, Commanders won. We're going to get into the Giants and Dallas, obviously, but you got a lot of interesting teams right now that won and one who didn't. So we're going to talk about that. Talking about a team that doesn't win is good old Green Bay. Look at what happens when Aaron Rodgers doesn't have Davante Adams. Everybody says that Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback. You know, he's the next Tom Brady. He's great. He's great. The man bitches and moans, and look at what happened. Aaron Jones is not the answer. I don't know what they're going to do in Green Bay, but you know who is the answer? Absolutely. Absolutely that Minnesota is going to win the division. Jefferson was 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. Fantasy owners go ballistic because they were just dominating. You have the veteran in Thielen. I mean, Dalvin Cook as your running back. I'm not saying that Kirk Cousins is the best, but let me tell you something that not a lot of people realize, guys. This is a contract year for Kirk Cousins. So he needs to show up and get that nice, juicy contract. And if Minnesota wins the division, if you're the Vikings, not give him a couple more years because they will look at it and be like, who's our competition? The Bears? Yeah, Justin Field looked good. They got to win. Whoop-de-doo. Aaron Rodgers, you got to figure out what's going on in Green Bay. And the Lions, in a couple of years with Swift and your team over there with good old, well, sorry, the Detroit Lions aren't going anywhere right now. But Minnesota, I think, by and by wins this division hands down, especially looking at Green Bay. And I'd be surprised if anybody would say different than that. We got moving on. Last couple of games before we get into week 2. Chargers versus the Raiders. Now, let me tell you something. This was, I feel, the game to watch. Absolutely was the game to watch. You had the debut of Davante Adams, and he did not disappoint. Derek Carr, Davante Adams are like 2 peas in a pod. It's going to look like. It's going to hurt people who have Hunter Renfrow. I would know. Played him at flex. Didn't really work out. But is that going to be consistent? Is he always going to go to Davante Adams? Obviously, you got one of the best wide receivers in the game. But are you going to see also maybe a resurgence of Josh Jacobs over there? You know, Josh Jacobs not having the best game by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely showing. And when I say showing, you got to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Because my goodness, did they show up. And 44 points. Now, you all know me. I'm a Kyler Murray fan. Big fan. But Mahomes was on another level last week, putting up 5 touchdowns. It was absolutely incredible to watch because it's showing that Mahomes says, oh, no. We're still here. We still run the West. Y'all be watching us this year. You know, everybody said with Tyreek being out of the Kansas City Chiefs, what's going to happen? You still have the weapons. You have Solaire, who was just a beast, getting over, I think, 15 to 20 points in fantasy. You had Travis Kelce, and you have the great arm of Mahomes, the trick throws, everything. I definitely think that they are on the verge. Now, what do we got over here? We got Herbert will be in talks for MVP. Mahomes is showing Hill is not missed. Exactly. Like I said, Hill is not missed. Is he going to do great in Miami? Absolutely. I think him and Tua are going to lock it up. It's going to take a couple weeks, but I definitely see them coming into the fold, being that team. But I mean, you can't underestimate the dominance of Justin Herbert from the Chargers, showing that, you still got Keenan Allen, you still got those Austin Eckler, you got those weapons, and then you have Mahomes. I'm very excited because they're the Thursday night game, and we're going to touch on it very much so, that who is going to be the team that really shows up? Who's going to be the team that is it going to be a tight game? I was looking on some sites, and we're saying over 60 points between the two teams, which you might say is unrealistic, but I'd say, are you kidding me? 5 touchdowns last week from Mahomes. And Herbert can deliver. So it's going to be very interesting what happens. But let's have a moment of silence for Dak Prescott. I mean, out to 4 to 6 weeks, what is going to happen over in Dallas? Zeke started strong, didn't end strong. Gets about 7 points in fantasy. Lamb, what did he do? Let me tell you something. When you're the Dallas Cowboys and consistently the Cowboys are the number one in your division, and now they're the only team with a loss in your division, something is going on in the NFC East. So I saved it because I wanted to talk about it. Let's talk about the craziness of the Giants and the Tennessee Titans. Because my God, if you would have said that the Titans were going to lose against the Giants, everybody would have called your bluff. But my goodness, is this Saquon Barkley's year of redemption like Michael Thomas? Could this be Barkley's call to, I'm going to show why? The stats were shown that he ran for over 150 yards. He hasn't done that since 2019. Saquon Barkley is showing that, you know what? I'm going to show you why I'm a valuable asset to this team. And the Cowboys showed it. You had King Henry, God save the king, but now not looking so great. So what's going over there in Tennessee? Usually a juggernaut, but are they really? Especially when you saw that the Giants. If Barkley shows up, I 100% agree that the Giants have a shot for the division. There's absolutely no mind, especially with Dak being out, and you don't know what's going to happen with Lamb. You don't know what's going to happen with Zeke. You can write off the Cowboys. That's just facts. The Commanders, I think, had an easy matchup against the Jags, so it's going to be very interesting to see their matchup this week. And the Eagles might be a threat. They do have, Miles Sanders, who, no offense, shows up sometimes for fantasy, sometimes doesn't. But when he shows up, he shows up. I mean, if Jalen Hurts is the next great quarterback, you have to show it this year. But I definitely think that Barkley is saying, you know what? We're going to step up. We're going to be the team in the NFC East. And then Broncos and Seahawks. Well, this upset a lot of people in some good old suicide pools. Nobody expect this. The reaction of Russell Wilson coming back to Seattle and the boos that he received. I mean, he had that beautiful, beautiful pass to Jerry Jeudy, down the line. I think it was 69 yards or something like that. But I saw stats earlier, and it's showing that Geno Smith might lead the Seahawks to the division. Now, that's a very bold statement. It's a very tough division, probably the toughest in the NFC. I will stand by that. I mean, but My God, the Broncos have to figure it out. Russell Wilson has to figure it out. You know, you need to use Gordon. I think he was unutilized. I think it was absolutely a travesty that they went on fourth down. And it's just mesmerizing how much the Broncos had that game. And not even that. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. How you went 50 seconds without calling a timeout and had the clock go all the way down to 25 seconds. Russell Wilson, you are a veteran quarterback by now. You should know that maybe I shouldn't wait 25 seconds to come and, then call a timeout. It's absolutely insane. But you know what is insane and who's going to join me on my frustration? Of course, he needs no introduction, but he is the fantasy guru, one of the smartest guys in football I know. Mr. JRush, welcome to the show, buddy.
Howdy, my bad. Dinner running late and nonsense. Speaking of nonsense, we got two parts. One, Greg, I asked you to carry Pete, not spew nonsense about Jameis Winston. All right, nonsensical. But anyway, from what I read about that was that unlike in Seattle, Wilson does not have, I don't know what you want to call it, the authority to call timeout, which is also nonsensical. You have a rookie coach with a veteran Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he's not allowed to call timeout. That's fully on them.
Would you like to talk about any of the Greg agrees with you? Any other shocking of the week ones you want to talk about? Touch on quick, sir. I know you were eating.
Well, obviously the Giants win, the Colts not win. The AFC North tie. I mean, AFC North was working ties all over the place, but whatever. But yeah, there's definitely an interesting week one. You kind of see what transpires when you cut down the preseason. All that leads in. You take away a game in the preseason, veterans don't play, and then this is kind of what happens. Either you get hurt, you look real bad. I know Joe Burrow didn't look great, but you know what? He's had quite the off season, not by choice. Like he had an appendectomy, things like that. He didn't look great. But other players who had full preseasons look like garbage. Aaron Rodgers, I know he's got no weapons. He looked like garbage. You could throw a few more in there, but
Is Jay being a Winston hater again?
I mean, you barely beat the Falcons, so I guess that means you're the best in the world now.
Of course, not enough work in the preseason. Of course, we agree with you, Greg. And finally, can't judge any player until after week 2.
With the way preseason played out and all that, I don't know if you can judge players until maybe week 4, which sucks for fantasy purposes. Look at a team like Houston. Oh, Damian Pierce is going to be our guy. Pierce is going to be our guy. And Rex Burkhead got the majority of the plays and all this and that. Is that because Pierce isn't ready? Or is that going to be their game plan? Hey, we're a team that has no identity going forward, and we're going to rely on Rex Burkhead. Like that doesn't make any sense at all. Your two best offensive playmakers are in their mid 30s. You should be rolling Pierce, not Cook and Burkhead.
Do you believe the coach's word that they will more involved?
They better get them more involved. Otherwise, what's the point?
By the end of the season, Joe will have to apologize to Winston and all Saints fans. God, it's a scary time when me and Greg agree.
For what? For them being better than the Falcons? Because that's about it. I mean,
you can't tell me that you don't think that Michael Thomas is on a resurgence, getting those 2 touchdowns over 50 yards.
Wait, what did we just say? You can't judge any players till after week 2. So what happens when he puts up 0 points this week?
Oh, well, then we'll have the argument next week.
All right, just checking.
So let's talk about this coming up week. We have the Thursday night game where we got the Chargers and the Chiefs.
What would you like to tell me about it? The kicker's not playing. Keenan Allen's not playing.
5 touchdowns from Mahomes last week.
Mm-hmm.
Do we see the same showing this week? Do we see Soler having the 20-point game in fantasy that he had last week?
Is that Jorge Soler or is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I just checking.
I believe it's Clyde, sir.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, I didn't have food like you. I'm not, my belly be hating for some food. All I got is this Red Bull over here.
So every other time, that was the excuse. Maybe Austin Eckler show up this week. That would be ideal if the Chargers want any chance to be in this game. That would be starting point number 1.
Love the Chargers to death, but the Chiefs will win.
I also agree with that sentiment.
And then we have, what is the over on this game, Mr. J?
A lot. I think it was 51.5, but we'll look to get the confirmed number. It's in that thing I sent you also.
Maybe I know. I was saying earlier when going over week 1, I definitely 54. See this being over at least 60 points. I see this just being a shootout between 2 great quarterbacks. Yes, Keenan Allen's not playing, but you still have weapons. I still think it's going to be a big showing. It's just going to be an offensive heavy game.
54. If you didn't hear me, McJiggles, 54, 5-4.
So we all are in agreement that we want the Chargers, but we definitely believe the Chiefs will be the winners.
I expect and hope it's a high-scoring game, but every time that's happened, things didn't come to fruition. No, I don't think Keenan Allen not playing is the reason the Chargers will lose, but I guess we'll see. Palmer had a nice week 1. I expect him to have a nice week 2 as well. So I don't think that's the problem. I think they need to get Austin Eckler a lot more involved.
Don't underestimate the Chargers defense.
I don't know about that one. I don't think either team's defense is that great.
Which is why I think it's definitely just going to be an offensive heavy game.
Yeah, they're two middle tier defenses.
Absolutely. Patriots at the Steelers. Is this redemption over in New England? Because they got slapped by the Miami Dolphins?
I don't know about redemption because Mac Jones is a back injury. They can't get any worse than were last week, though. So,
do you think the Steelers could be a 2-0 team after this week?
There's a shot at it. Helps being in Pittsburgh. Najee Harris is playing, so that definitely helps the cause. But it all comes down to quarterback play. Whichever team's quarterback, and
Chargers will crush.
Neither do write home about after week 1, but whichever team's quarterback comes to play.
Pad 0 and Steelers 2 for Mr. Greg.
He's talking about the record, 0-2.
Oh, well, I would say the Pats are already going to be 0-2, but I took it as Pats is still 0-0, and I took it as Steelers will be 2-0. But yeah, I see the Steelers, especially Harris, being confirmed as of I think today. I got the report that he's going to be playing, and I don't see the Pittsburgh having an issue against the Pats, especially being home. I think that home advantage we always talk about is a big thing. And I see the Steelers going in and winning and being 2-0 after this game.
Like I said, I think whatever quarterback plays better will win. I think the Steelers have a better chance of winning. But that will be seen on Sunday.
That is facts. What will also be seen on Sunday is the battle of the running backs. Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers versus Saquon Barkley and the Giants.
Battle of the overrated running backs, correct? Yes, Barkley had a good week. Would it take him 2 years to finally have a breakout game?
Yeah, over 150 yards. Yep. Or I think even 100 yards, they were saying.
He hasn't had a good week since right around the first time he got hurt. So that in between there, he got hurt again and has been pretty bad.
Do you think, though, that it was just a fluke, or do you see a steady rise for Saquon Barkley?
No, there won't be no rise. That will be the ceiling. Unless they play a team where they're starting, unless they're playing against like a Division 3 college team or the the practice squad of another team, I don't see it happening.
We got that injury takes 2 years to recover. McJiggles keeps telling you that.
Yeah, he keeps telling me a lot of things. It's weird how none of them panned out. Like how amazing Austin Eckler was, and he got 9 fantasy points last week. If that's amazing, then I guess it is.
Joe, you're going to learn this season on Barkley. A lot of Giants fans and
Learning what? That he's going to be leaving via free agency to go sign with the Houston Texans because they'll be the only team that needs him. That's about all I'm gonna be learning.
That is fair. That is fair. So, do you think that Baker has a comeback game this week?
I think the Giants played way over their head in week 1. I don't think Baker's any good. Don't get me wrong on that, but the Giants played way over their head. So I think the Giants will come back down. First off, the Giants, who are so amazing, Daniel Jones threw for a huge, and I mean huge. He threw a 65-yard touchdown and had 188 yards passing. If that is not elite, I don't know what is. Like, that's got to be the best quarterback in the league. Just give this guy the MVP. He threw for a whopping 188 yards. And as McJiggles has told me many a times, Daniel Jones is the best. I don't know why he drafts other quarterbacks. But as he told me, 188-yard passing game from Daniel Jones is elite. Elite.
We have when Barkley finishes a top 7 bag, Joe can buy us all Giants jersey.
Sure, anything for you, McJiggles.
Anything indeed.
Yes, you did. We have the text messages. When you and your wife were talking about which quarterback to add, and you offered her Daniel Jones because he's such an elite quarterback.
Greg just wants them to win. And I think the Giants will win. I think they will. I don't want to call it an upset, but I definitely think if Baker played how he did last week, I don't see it bowing well. Not saying that the Giants defense by any stretch is good, but I think that the Giants are running with this high. They're going to be home. You got the atmosphere. There's a big home games for me this week, and I think that the Giants squeak it out. And I think it's going to be another close game. Don't get me wrong, but I think they will thrive through and win. The team that I'm curious about is your team.
There's nothing to be curious about.
Jets versus the Browns.
0-2 because Joe Flacco's starting again. So the question will be how many fantasy points does Chubb and Hunt get? Do they both crack 20?
Hunt, very big game last week.
He's going to have another big game this week. The only thing I can say about the Jets positively last week was their young corners showed up to play. Will that help this week? No, because Jacoby Brissett's the Browns quarterback, and all they have is Cooper, and he barely touched the ball. It's all about Chubb and Hunt, and unless the corners can come tackle them, these two might go off 20 points each. So if you have them, I would get them in your lineup.
Fair.
That is a fact, Greg, because what is there to get excited about? Wilson's got some other STI and whatever every other week, so he can't play. So in 3 weeks, Pete might be their quarterback. Who knows?
Crazier things have happened.
So there's nothing to get excited about outside of the two cornerbacks played well in week 1. Their offense really lit up the scoreboard. They got the 9 points, which is essentially like Daniel Jones being an elite quarterback, throwing for 188 yards. And we'll leave it at that. Michael Carter was good. If you have Michael Carter, play him.
Colts versus the Jags. I'm pretty sure we were unanimous on the Browns winning. So Colts versus the Jags. Matt Ryan, Jonathan Taylor. Are we going to see another tie, or is this going to be, hey, this is what we should have been last week?
Well, they couldn't beat the Texans, who are arguably on par and possibly worse than the Jaguars. So if you're just looking at that logically, apparently the Jaguars are going to win this game.
Well,
But
James Robinson definitely looking nice last week.
he certainly was. He's better than Rex Burkhead.
Those are facts.
But anyway, the Colts need to win this game. Michael Pittman was good, but now he's got a quad injury, which is a little. He practiced Wednesday, so you'd be like, okay, good. He did not practice today. So he's going in the wrong direction, which might not be a good sign. Might be a good sign for Jonathan Taylor owners, but they also said he's not going to get 31 touches a game. But if Pittman doesn't play, he might be getting 31 touches this game because that would be the only chance they'll have at beating a bad Jaguar team.
Imagine it's another tie.
Or a loss and you start 0-1-1 playing against the Texans and the Jaguars. And then you might as well just give it up. Just be like, all right, we'll trade Matt Ryan to the Cowboys for nothing.
There you go. Nailed it. They need a quarterback. Dolphins, Ravens. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this actually will be the game to watch. I'm most interested in this game.
Well, obviously, this game looks good on paper. We're going to see how legit the Dolphins' defense is. Obviously, they had a nice week 1. The Ravens had a bye week in week 1, so that doesn't really say anything. Their offense, the benefit for them is J.K. Dobbins looks like he's definitely playing and legitimately playing, not like 5 snaps and done. Like Dobbins will probably be the featured back, so that'll help their cause. Can Tua move the ball enough against a defense that's a little banged up? That's something big for them. So this is a statement game. Whoever wins this game, A will be 2-0, but B will be, feeling great about the start of their season.
And then who would you think is going to be the one that squeaks it out here?
I would say Baltimore only because the quarterbacks rule the day. And we've seen, I sent a video to Alex the other day, where Tua couldn't throw the ball to a target that wasn't moving, that was maybe 15 yards down the field. Yes, he threw the ball 50 yards down the field and hit that target somehow, but he couldn't hit the short targets. And that's a little scary. Tyreek Hill had 12 targets in week 1 with 8 catches. On paper, his 8 for 98 looks pretty good. But how many times playing with Mahomes did you see like Tyreek Hill not, have 4 incompletions? So, I think the better quarterback wins out in this game, and the better quarterback is Lamar Jackson.
Fully agreed on that statement. Tampa versus the Saints. Saints are home.
Oh, God, Jameis Winston's just so good. He really, really put the foot on the throat of the Falcons. They went up like 38-0 in the first quarter. They really hit the hammer down. They're the greatest team in the league. That's all I know about this. I don't know anything else.
I couldn't say better myself. No, in all seriousness.
I've never heard of the Buccaneers, so I'm lost.
Obviously, this is going to be a big game because whoever wins this game is most likely going to lead the division.
Well, let Greg McJiggles, turn your volume up for this one. This is a statement game for the Saints. The Buccaneers look like shit against the Cowboys, and their whole team is injured. They are better than the Falcons, so if you can beat them, even though they're hurt, you might actually be a legitimate team. Will it happen? We will see. I hear that Jameis Winston's super elite, so beating a banged-up Buccaneers team should not be a problem for this Saints juggernaut. Alvin Kamara went nuts. He went for like 93 fantasy points last week.
7.6, but who?
Oh, 7.6 for the second best running back behind Austin Eckler. Only got 7.6 on an elite offense against the Atlanta Falcons.
Tell
Anyway,
us how you really feel.
I feel amazing. I feel this offense the gears are turning perfectly. They got this great running game. Mark Ingram and Kamara are really tearing it up. They got elite quarterback play from Taysom Hill.
You can't say they didn't.
And then Michael Thomas went back to Ohio State. Michael Thomas, he's literally the best receiver in football. Not not Jefferson, not Chase, not anybody. Michael Thomas is the best. And I'll fight anyone to the death. I'm getting a Michael Thomas jersey. That's how elite he is. Thank God it's a contract year that he finally could get on the field for the first time in 7 years. Thank Christ. I was nervous, but then I saw, oh, it's a contract year. I gotta get the Saints to overpay for me like I'm an elite player, and then miss the next 7 years again because my feminine
Joe, you're
areas hurt.
digging a hole bigger and bigger.
With what? That Michael Thomas is great? He is great. Everybody knows he's great. I don't know how he didn't go number 1 overall in our dynasty league. That was a shock to me. A shock. I don't know
and
what
you didn't
you
pick
guys
him
are doing.
up. Oh,
I had him high on my list. Right around the 15th round, I was looking at Michael Thomas. right after I took, my third kicker, I was thinking Michael Thomas just slotted in right there.
in all seriousness, this is a statement game for the Saints. They have to show up. The Bucs are not the Bucs of last year. Injuries are plaguing them. I mean, Michael Thomas had a good showing, but you need Alvin Kamara to show up. You need the help from the other receivers. You need the trick plays from Taysom Hill. Not saying that
I was
he
going to
should
ask
be a
that
major
question.
factor, but Jameson Winston did look good in the fourth quarter. And
Yeah,
I will say that.
What about the other 3 quarters?
That's what I'm getting to. The other 3 quarters, not so much. I said right when I was going over week 1, Michael Thomas needs to get off that little rust of not practicing and finally getting into the groove. And when he did, things happened. 2 touchdowns, over 50 yards. Michael Thomas showing, obviously, contract year, you got to show up. So I'm very intrigued to see what Saints team shows up because this is a game to say who is going to be the top dog in the NFC South. Plain and simple.
My bigger concern is, and I was going to ask it, but I know I'm not going to get a logical answer. I don't think Taysom Hill is going to be able to run like he did strictly out of the Wildcat because nobody's respecting him throwing the ball right this minute.
I agree with that.
So I don't think, the minute he's on the field and taking shotgun snaps, I think everybody's going to be coming up to the line. I don't know what Atlanta was doing. Why they didn't just do that? Because every time he has the ball, he's taking it himself and going to try and run someone over. So I feel like
screw the Wildcat.
Those trick plays, unless they throw something into it where he throws the ball or actually hands the ball to someone else, I don't think we'll have the same desired effect as they did last week, which was huge for their comeback.
Agreed. Obviously, no surprise here. Saints, I think, by 5 points. My only worry is with a minute left, Brady's going to storm down the field.
Well, that's when your defense needs to show up for once and not, give up those game back-breaking touchdowns and Hail Marys and whatever.
Exactly. What do you think? Tampa or the Saints, sir?
Ask me on Friday. If Friday everybody's practicing outside of Godwin, then Tampa's still a better team. If these guys aren't going, then obviously it's a different story.
I agree. Commanders versus the Lions. Lions are at home.
Somebody write this down. The Lions are favored. Granted,
playing Swift. Obviously, I would play Swift, but
being a home team helps. But the Lions are favored in a football game. Well, if Godwin's out 2 weeks, I'm talking about Evans and everybody. That's why I'm not worried about if Godwin was practicing. I'm talking about Evans. Pretty sure I sent in a group chat. They had like 9 guys.
Gage is questionable at the moment.
Didn't play. Evans didn't practice. Brady didn't practice. Both left tackles didn't practice, which is never a good sign when your starting and backup left tackle both don't practice. And that's
First
the
time
guy
in
who protects
24
the
games.
quarterback. But yeah, says a lot right there. But what did I say last week? The Lions were headed in the right direction. The Eagles, who are a potential NFC playoff team, beat them by 3. So
That's what I said.
the only thing concerning me is the name you brought up, and I need to see if he practiced today because Mr. Swift is a little banged up. And that will obviously
Impact the Lions quite a bit.
impact the Lions exactly quite a bit. So I'm just checking to see if there's anything on him. So, all I'm saying is he's got an ankle injury and not much more. Obviously, we'll find out
Closer to Sunday.
Friday because if he doesn't practice Friday, that's not a good sign. But he had a real nice week 1. Obviously, they used him a lot. You know, he averaged 9.6 yards a carry, and I think had the second most missed tackles this week. So in week 1, I mean. So that's a big part of their offense. I know they have playmakers. They have St. Brown and Hawkinson and things like that. Hawkinson might be underutilized or it might be the bad quarterback play, whichever, but he can do his thing. But if Swift's not there, it ain't happening. I know Williams had a nice week too, but Williams is not the impactful back that Swift is.
I agree. I think though, if Swift plays, I think the Lions could definitely win this game.
Nobody's denying that. We should show Washington a little love. Carson Wentz is not great. But Antonio Gibson had a career high 8 catches, and he was very involved. I know Robinson Jr.'s out, but he's looked real good. Like he's already on his way back. So Gibson needs to prove that he's the guy because he certainly can lose his job. So the fact that Gibson had a nice week 1 was big for them. Granted, again, they played Jacksonville, but he needs to keep that momentum going for his career, I would say, his starting life, because how many teams really need a running back of his style? Third down back, sure, but every down back, not so much.
Seahawks and at San Fran. Geno Smith going to ride this wave of a big win. Going to roll into San Fran and win again.
Could happen if Trey Lance plays like he played week 1. The pass I will give Trey Lance is that you could see them literally squeegeeing water off the field. That's how wet it was. And they showed highlights of like Roquan Smith. He's like, every time I tackle someone, I get up soaked. The field was atrocious, but it's football. They play in all weather. So he didn't step up. And I'm not saying Justin Fields did step up because Justin Fields is not that good either. But Fields made a couple big plays. They won the game. Bad look for San Fran. So this is a huge game for San Fran. Seattle's, so I'm a Mariner fan, as most people know. So a lot of the Mariners Twitter is also Seahawk Twitter. So I read and hear all about that. Fans are not, super optimistic, obviously, about this team. They're excited they beat Russell week 1. But in reality, they're not like, oh my God, we're gonna make the playoffs. We won a game. We're gonna win 2 games. We're gonna win 3. They expect it to be a down year. Jamal Adams already out for the year, which is a horrendous trade for the Seahawks when push comes to shove because they've gotten, I think, a half a year of games worth out of Adams so far, and traded multiple high-end draft picks for him. So that hasn't been good for them. Seattle, yes, they're riding the wave of a huge win for them. But this is a huge, huge, huge statement game for San Fran because they have Super Bowl aspirations. Seattle does not.
I agree with that. I think, yeah, Lance has to show up. Obviously, the field being a big factor, but it's also, Seattle had a little bit more going for them. I feel last week being home, wanting to prove that, we don't need Russell Wilson anymore. The reception that Wilson got was not favorable last week. So,
Well,
yeah,
that's
the
to me
Seahawks.
that's embarrassing on their part. He literally took you to the Super Bowl. I get it. He didn't want to. Each side probably wore out their welcome to each other, and that's why he moved on. He won you a Super Bowl. How many teams can sit here and say that? Get over it. You're not the be all end all. Whatever. He literally won you a Super Bowl, and just say for that season, 31 other teams are dying for that. If you told me that so and so would be the Jets quarterback for a year, they'd win a Super Bowl, and he would move on, he would force a trade out. Sign me up. I don't care who it is. I'll take the Super Bowl and out the door, and the Jets will go 2-108 like they do every season. So be happy you got a Super Bowl out of him and a lot of good seasons out of him. There's no reason to be upset with him just because he moved on.
Talking about the Super Bowl, that brings us to the Atlanta Falcons versus the Rams.
Well,
Rams got pretty beaten up last week.
so I'm going to throw in a little something in there. There was a rumor came out saying that if San Fran had cut Jimmy Garoppolo, the Rams were one of his biggest suitors. So you'd say to me, why would the Rams want Jimmy Garoppolo? And it's because they were that concerned about Matt Stafford's elbow. So now here we are looking at week 2, and the Rams lost. Stafford wasn't atrocious, but actually it was. He threw a whole bunch of interceptions. But the point being is he was able to throw the ball is where I'm going with it. It's not like he didn't turn into Ben Roethlisberger, could only throw the ball 5 yards down the field. He could throw the ball, maybe not to his expected capabilities. So will this hinder him going forward? Will it progressively get worse? Will it get better? These are things we need to see. And I feel like this week they're going to be extremely run heavy, which you saw somewhat worked for the Saints with Taysom Hill. And I feel like Darrell Henderson might have a monster week because Cam Akers didn't really show anything week 1. So if you're an owner on the fence about Darrell Henderson, he might be your guy this week.
Do you think anything you think this is going to still be a Rams game? You got Cooper Kupp.
I think because it's a home game, I think the Rams still pull it out because their defense, something that is going to be Atlanta's kind of niche this year, is Mariota running the ball. And I don't know if he's going to be able to run himself going to be able to run the ball against the Rams. If he could effectively run, I think he ran for 75 yards or 70 yards against the Saints. Like if he play like that, then yeah, absolutely the Falcons will be in this game. But
the Saints defense and the Rams defense are completely different defenses.
Exactly. One has Aaron Donald, the other does not. So the Rams defense, I think, because the Falcons outside of Mariota are pretty young, will be tough. Cordell Patterson will get his little chunk plays and stuff like that. But, the Drake Londons, if Jalen Ramsey's covering Drake London, that's not a great matchup for Drake London. So I think, this might be a whole ground and pound game, let alone because Mariota might not be able to throw the ball, and then who knows if Stafford can throw the ball. So this might be a big ground and pound game, and that bodes a lot better for the Rams than it does for the Falcons.
Cardinals versus the Raiders. Raiders are at home.
Raiders are a favorite as well. I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but I think this is a game. This is the state. This is another. It's week 2, but a statement game for both teams. Raiders got nice shiny new weapon with Adams, playing in a tough division, and the Cardinals came out and scored a whopping. I know we're very into these numbers. So I think 7 points is a lot. I have to confirm with McJiggles on this one because he gives me a lot of amazing information. Like 1 fantasy point above your projected is going off, but 5 fantasy points above it is average and expected. So I don't know. The Cardinals scoring 7 points might have been the Cardinals going off. I'm not really sure, and I need to confirm this with my sources of McJiggles. But the Cardinals team, boohoo, doesn't have Hopkins. Whose fault is that? We know. But they still have some playmakers. They have Connor, who was really good last year. Allegedly, Kyler Murray's good. That's still to be seen. Zach Ertz was on a snap count last week and scored a touchdown. He's not on a snap count this week. So that should only bolster this offense that scored, wait for it, 7 points. Less than the Jets scored. But yeah.
I think that the Raiders are going to win. Carr and Devontae Adams was showing greatness last week. And the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, I'm a big fan. Everybody knows, but I don't see them really the team they were last year. I think
that is definitely a fact, but it also seems that this is why you and Greg and Chris all kind of mesh together now. You guys are fans of below average players who are highly overrated, and you guys just hitch the bandwagon.
listen, I was always a Derek Carr fan.
Kyler Murray's the best. Kyler Murray this, and what does Kyler Murray do outside of cry? His name should
Lately,
be
nothing.
Kryler Murray because that's more realistic. He scored 7 points against the Chiefs. And what did we say when we talked about the Chiefs team? Oh, they have an average at best defense. And you scored a whole 7 points. 7! The Jets scored 9 with Joe Flacco at quarterback. Joe Flacco, not Kryler Murray.
So Raiders win this game clearly.
The more and more I think about it, yeah, because Kyler Murray is gonna, throw a hissy fit on the sideline, and that'll end that, and then they'll demand a new contract again.
Texans versus Broncos. Broncos are at home. Russell Wilson, you showing up this week now that you're home?
He did throw for 350 yards, so you can't fully put that on him.
I don't know.
They're in altitude. McManus could make a 64-yarder there. I'm just saying. I mean, if it comes down to McManus making a career-long kick against the Texans, then the Broncos might as well just give up on their season. They've already mortgaged a future, and if you struggle to beat the Texans, then just pack it in. Just be like, whoever wants Judy or Sutton, step into my office. We'll keep the other one and go from there.
Well, to help with the 350 yards, he had a nice, I think it was like 69-yard pass to Jerry Jeudy last week.
It was big, and obviously that didn't hurt the cause.
Exactly.
He got the tight ends involved.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that scares me or not. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have Russell Wilson as my dynasty league quarterback for the time being. So I don't care who he throws the ball to. But you have Judy, you have Sutton. He started that game. They were like 3 drives deep and hadn't thrown a pass at a wide receiver. And that's what bothers me. Why? Was it the game, was that the plays being called? Was it him playing scared? Why do you not target Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton? And even KJ, their third wide receiver. I know Tim Patrick's out for the year, but you have 2 legit receivers and a pretty good receiver, and you're not targeting them. And that's what scares me about Denver. They need to figure out what their offensive identity is.
I agree with that.
If Russell Wilson's a check down quarterback, all of a sudden he's checked down Charlie over here. Broncos aren't going nowhere in that division because everybody else can get the ball up and down the field at will. And then here you are checking down every play.
Bengals, these next 4 games, let me tell you, I think are very impactful. And we're going to start with the Bengals versus the Cowboys.
Well, the impact from this is for both, again, the quarterbacks. We talked about Burrow, had a rough offseason, not by design, not because he held out, things like that. Things happen. He needed surgery, recovering from surgery, on a team that's expected to be really good again. So he needs to show that he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys have a legitimate defense. Can they do anything on offense is now going to be the question. They're saying all the right things. Oh, Cooper Rush and Will Greer can handle this offense, and they know this offense. We're gonna find out because they need to. And if they don't handle this offense, we've seen many rumors talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick, stuff like that, that they're not going to trade for a quarterback. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, I read an article again that broke down his numbers, and COVID kind of threw a wrench into some of these things, so these numbers are a little weird. But his last full season he played was with Tampa, and granted they didn't make the playoffs, but they broke down his numbers for like advanced analytics for quarterbacks, and they were really good. So clearly that season wasn't his fault. Then he filled in for a couple games in Miami because Tua wasn't very good. And again, in that season, Miami wasn't a playoff team, so they weren't very good. And again, his advanced analytics were up there. So even at an older age, he was proficient, we'll say, at quarterback. And then his career essentially ended with Washington with a hip injury, and he was ended up out for the year. So he didn't really do much. So what I'm looking at is, and I think it's a great signing for Dallas because he can sling the ball around still. He essentially, the scary part is he hasn't really played in 2 years, but he also hasn't been hit outside of that injury when he got hurt. Hasn't taken, the hits and all that. So he realistically, the rest of his body's had 2 years to heal. So if he wanted to, and it was in, staying in shape, the tough part is, as in about 40 minutes or so, you're going to turn this football game on, and guess who's one of the commentators for this game?
Tell me.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, snap.
So that's the tough thing, is how much desire does he have to play? Because he's already sitting here at a job, with football, commentating about football games. So does he still have that burning desire to play? I'm no longer an athlete as well, but I would want to go out on my terms, and he went out on an injury. So I feel like that may be eating him, a little bit, like, hey, I didn't get to finish my career the way I wanted to.
And with the weapons you have in Dallas, there would be no
Exactly.
concern, I think, about coming back saying it's not a shitty team. This team has potential, and I can give them a good few weeks where I could show and ride off to the sunset being that guy.
The people will say, oh, it takes time to learn an offense, this and that. A, he's a veteran, so it won't take him that long to learn the offense. And B, even if you're worried about it, say you brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick, say Dallas lays an egg Sunday, and you say, well, shit, we have to get him in here. He's only going to practice half that week. You have Ezekiel Elliott, you have Tony Pollard. For week 3, I don't know who Dallas is playing. Knowing the football schedule,
give me a second.
Yep, knowing the football schedule, it's probably the Jets at this rate. You can run the ball for a week and probably still win. Oh no, it was the Bengals and the Jets. I was close though. They're the right game matchup playing the Jets. They're playing the Giants. Oh, never mind. You can't run the football because Daniel Jones is elite and he will pick that Cowboys team apart. Never mind. You can't sign Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's over. Never mind. I scratch everything I've said. You have to go with Cooper Rush for the rest of eternity. Even when Dak comes back, Cooper Rush is the guy. Forget it.
Bengals win this week.
The Bengals have to. Even though they won. No, they did not win week 1. Even though they went to overtime and probably should have tied week 1. Or made an extra point and won week 1. Either one. They are in a division that can afford them, a slip up every now and then. The Cowboys, you can say, are also in a division that allow them to slip up, but the difference is they don't have their starting quarterback. So they might be getting a bunch of slip ups early, and that's going to be tougher to come back from.
Bears versus Green Bay. Green Bay is home.
Oh God! So if we came into week 2 saying that the Bears are undefeated and the Packers are winless, a lot of
Crazy
people,
week one,
probably laugh.
but
So with
these are
that being
facts.
said, these are the facts. What I get, it's a home game. I don't think it'll be snowing in Green Bay just yet. So I haven't looked at an Alan Lazard update because I didn't draft him. But
I
if
don't
Alan,
think he's playing. I could
if
double check.
if Alan Lazard doesn't play again, what in the world are the Packers gonna do? Because they didn't throw the ball very well, and the Bears won a game.
Limited on Thursday.
All right, so we'll take that as a 50-50 for now. Obviously, tomorrow is more important. But I'm just gonna pretend like he's not playing. They didn't look good in week 1 with him not playing. Aaron Jones only got like 9 fantasy points. Dylan was pretty good, but again, they're 2 running backs. Where are we going? Watson dropped a deep ball from Rodgers, so I'm sure he's in Rodgers' doghouse. So where are the Packers going with this? Adams ain't around to save the day. Valdez Scantling went to Kansas City, so that's out. Randall Cobb's 105 years old, and he didn't do much. So where in the world are the Packers going? Could this be? And as you remember, all the memes and everything about how Aaron Rodgers is the Bears' daddy and he owns them, so he's part owner of the Bears. Is this finally the Bears' chance to show their daddy who's boss and go 2-0? Oddly enough.
If the Bears beat the Packers, are the Packers in trouble?
I mean, I already thought the Packers were in trouble to begin with. So if the Bears beat the Packers, yes, because for this year the Vikings are still here. They still have Jefferson. They still have Thielen. They still have Cook. They still have Kirk Cousins.
That's what I was saying.
So are the Packers in trouble if the Bears beat them? Yeah, they're in a lot of trouble because even though the Vikings aren't great, they're formidable. So the Packers need to win games like these. If they don't, they have no shot. I don't care if Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback.
Division game, huge repercussions. But I'm going to say that the Bears will win and surprise us all, especially if Lazard does not play or play to the effectiveness he needs to be. I could see the Bears pulling this out.
I just don't see the Packers with playmakers on offense. I think the Packers need to win the game, and I feel like the Bears will choke. I think this is going to be 14-13 in the fourth quarter. And then Justin Fields, the pumpkin, it strikes midnight, all those things, all those cliches and whatever. I think Justin Fields reverts back to the ugly, 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 ugly princess. And that's where the Packers end up striking and maybe win 16-14 or something silly like that.
Fair enough. Tennessee versus the Bills. Bills are at home.
I can't even. If this was last year, I'd be like, all right, this is a perfect statement game for both teams. One team lost to the Giants last week. The other team did not lose to the Giants last week and beat the Super Bowl champions.
Decisively, might I add.
So on paper, and as you can, if you can kind of see it, there's 2 Monday night games this week.
Yep.
This is Monday night game one, I guess you call it. They used to do Monday night 7:00 and Monday night like 10:00, and I guess because they figure you're not getting people staying up till 10:00 Eastern time to watch the Raiders whatever. They said, well, all right, we'll do 7 and 8 and hope people tune into these games. So this is Monday night game A. Titans, Bills, Josh Allen does what Josh Allen does. Yeah, he turned the ball over a couple times against the Rams. But when push came to shove, he hit Gabriel Davis on a big ball. He ran for a touchdown. The things he does. And they won. They beat the defending Super Bowl champions. The Titans got rid of A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown had a big debut for the Eagles. Traylon Burks, who's supposed to replace him, only saw 7 or 11 routes in week 1. A.J. Brown, on one leg, would see 11 routes in the game. You'd see 11 targets in a game. So if this is your replacement for AJ Brown, this is not the start you're looking for as a Titans fan. Yes, Derrick Henry's really good. He got a little banged up. Dontre Hilliard went off. That's also not a recipe for success with the Titans. They need Henry healthy. They need receivers making plays. Blah blah blah. The Bills play good defense. I don't think this might be Titans starting 0-2 in the worst division in football.
Absolutely. I think that the Titans are definitely they lost with AJ Brown. I mean, he was a big asset of that team. King Henry did not look like the king last week. I said it when I was going over week 1. This is not the Tennessee Titans of last year. I don't care what anybody says. And the Bills are man possessed, and they being home. We can't stop stressing home for me this week is a big factor. And I think being in Buffalo, you have Diggs, you even Singletary, not the greatest running back, but you still have these offensive weapons. You have Josh Allen, he's going to put up 25 to 30 fantasy points. And you're looking at a team where, you had Stafford with, the problems he's had, but you still had Cooper Kupp on that team. You still had Henderson, you had those playmakers, and you do have some on Tennessee, but the Bills dominated the Rams last week, and they were the Super Bowl champions. And with the Tennessee Titans losing to the Giants, which is already, it's opposite day because nobody would ever expect that. It is a facade. It's insane. I think the Bills will once again run through and just be the dominant team.
What scares me, and we didn't really do like an off-season show, but this would have been something that would have come up. So you're the Titans. You got Derrick Henry getting older, and Ryan Tannehill essentially an average, maybe slightly above average quarterback, right? So having AJ Brown open up the field, which set up Derrick Henry to pound the ball, and it went hand in hand. It worked for them. Why would the front office have thought? And I get it that AJ Brown wanted to get paid. Why are you not paying AJ Brown as a young, well above average wide receiver? Yes, he has a little bit of injury history, but he made this offense go because his deep play threat opened up Derrick Henry's running lanes. What made you think that trading AJ Brown and drafting Burks? I know you signed Robert Woods. I can comprehend that, but AJ Brown and Robert Woods would have been a hell of a lot better than Traylon Burks and Robert Woods. What in the front office made you say that AJ Brown wasn't worth getting paid and that we would still be good by trading him? That's what I would love to know. And I'm sure Titans fans would probably love to know too. But if you've watched sports at all, you get hand fed nonsense, and higher ups want you to believe that. And hey, we're trying to win, and you're not trying to win when you trade your best player. Simple as that. You're in a really bad division. Okay, you're battling the Colts. It's either you or the Colts, realistically, that are going to make the playoffs. So you got a 50-50 shot at making the playoffs, and you're like, hey, we'll just trade our best player.
No big deal.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. We'll just trade our best player and still expect to win the division.
Bills slaughter the Titans. Sorry, the Titans.
They'll slaughter the Texans at some point too.
Yeah, exactly. Vikings, Eagles. Eagles are at home. This, I think.
I'm not riding your home, whatever.
No, not for this game. This is a statement game because, yes, the Eagles won, but you barely won the Eagles against.
Exactly. And again, McJiggles will come in and chime in about how amazing Jalen Hurts is. He started the game 0-for-4 against an amazing Lions defense. Blah, blah, blah. But he'll finish the week as the top 4 quarterback because he ran for 276 yards, threw for 18 and 6 interceptions. But, he's great. And that's all we need to know. Yes, this Eagles defense that used to be a strong point is not. And to be honest, their O-line, which was also a strong point, is not. A.J. Brown was great, but Jalen Hurts needs a ton of time to be able to get him the ball. So that scares me when they're playing legitimate teams. Like I said last week, the Lions are on their way, but the Lions are not, there yet. They haven't gotten that elite, playmaker that just takes over. They don't have Aaron Donald. Just
Mhm.
just obviously 31 other teams do not, but they don't have that Aaron Donald player yet. They've had high end picks, blah blah blah, but they're going in the right direction. And eventually they'll get a rookie wide receiver, and that'll make their offense more dynamic. But their defense still leaves a lot on the table, which is why they gave up 38 points to the Eagles. But that's, I feel like, the only reason the Eagles thrived is because their defense is not that good. Now the Vikings are better on defense. Again, might not say a lot, but the Vikings, I think, can at least put a stop together against the Eagles. And the Vikings' offensive scene with Justin Jefferson was pretty damn good. And they still have Cook and Madison, and
Mhm.
Thielen didn't really do a lot, but he didn't need to do a lot.
But the thing with Thielen though is he's a veteran. He knows he's going to make those big plays when he needs to.
Exactly, and he's not going to be the guy like, oh my God, Justin Jefferson's going off. I'm going to cry that I didn't get the ball. I'm going to throw my helmet around and kick things around and knock the Gatorade thing over because I'm not getting the ball. No, he's sitting there. Hey, we're winning. I want to win. Go Justin Jefferson. There's my camera. Go Jefferson. You go get 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. You carry us, and we're good. And you know what? If it's 3rd and 2, and I need to go catch a 3-yard pass, so be it. I'm going to do that because we're going to get the first down. We're going to win the game. Blah blah blah. And that's why
Hun-
I would take him. Yes, he's an older version of Cooper Cup. He was Cooper Cup before Cooper Cup was Cooper Cup. But I would take that all the time. He's not throwing a hissy fit and all that. He didn't need to have a big week because Jefferson was doing his part. But there'll be a week where they actually play a good defense and they focus all on Jefferson, and that'll be that Adam Thielen week, and everybody's just like, "Yep, we knew this was coming." All those goodies.
Like I said, there's no doubt in my mind that the Vikings are going to win this game. They have the weapons. They're looking the strongest in the North, and I don't think anything's going to slow them down, especially when the Eagles. Yes, you have AJ Brown. You have some weapons there. Even Miles Sanders when he decides to show up. But at the end of the day, I think that the Vikings are too stacked up, too ready. I think the Vikings take it without a doubt.
I definitely think the Vikings are going to win this game too. The only thing that concerns me is, and again, I'm in that pick 'em pool which deals with spreads, is this could be like 35-21 in the fourth, and then they get like a late score, make it interesting, but realistically it wasn't interesting type of thing. Where on paper it looks like, hey, they were in the game, but realistically, oh hey, the Vikings had 200 more yards than they did and stuff like that. That's the only thing that concerns me about this game is like a little late game push where you're down 2-3 scores and you get a little momentum and it looks a little more interesting than it really was. Well, other than that, I feel like the Vikings take this game.
100%. So that's our week 2. That's our predictions. That's our thoughts. Obviously, you want to look into playing certain players over others. Henderson already projected for 15 points right now in fantasy. So you know that might be the move you want to do this week. But we've got some updates to share with you. So I'm going to let Jay take over right here.
Did we talk about the changes?
No, I left that for you.
We didn't. Oh my! I thought we were gonna start and end with it, but then again, I wasn't here for the beginning, so I guess you hard to do. We're gonna have a new time. Work kind of threw a wrench in this, so I think we're gonna move to Fridays. I think we're gonna still look at 6:30. I
Mm-hmm.
think 6:30 works for the most part, except for today apparently. But I think we're gonna have to move to Fridays just because of some work inter-
Shenanigans.
interruptions, whichever. But yes, which isn't the worst thing because that'll let us talk about the Thursday game. We'll have to just decide if we're going to do predictions the week before or we're just going to be like, hey, we thought so and so was going to win it and they did or they didn't. But we'll address that next week, I think.
Yep.
Go from there. But yeah, we're gonna be moving to Fridays at 6:30, and it's staying at that. So there'll be no shenanigans blocking that. Hopefully.
Hopefully, indeed. I want to thank everybody for watching. Of course, Mr. JRush, always a pleasure to be co-hosting with you, sir.
Sorry for late, but
No,
it is what it is. Duty calls sometimes,
I'm
unfortunately.
saying.
Enjoy your Thursday game that's starting in a couple minutes.
Yep.
Go offense, and
Oh, we'll go offense indeed. Of course, remember you can watch the VOD here over on YouTube, Facebook fan page, over on Twitch. Remember, hit that subscribe if you're new. Comment if you have fantasy questions. Let us know. Up to minute on Sunday. We'll get back to you. We'll let you know what's going on. We'll be there for you. We'll see you next Friday, 6:30. Talk about the Thursday game. Talk about week 3, talk about the craziness that might happen in week 2, because if week 1 was anything to show for it, who knows what we're walking into with week 2.
it'll give us a lot of talking points and entertainment value if it keeps going this way.
I'm saying. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.